Today's video is all about patch 10.3. We finally have the patch notes and we know exactly what's going to be coming in the following 2 weeks. Let's break it down so you guys know exactly what to expect and what to abuse in your games. Smash that like button, destroy the sub button, and let's jump right in. By far, the most important change of this entire patch are the nerfs to Akali. She got absolutely destroyed. The energy cost on Q went up, the movement speed from her W went down, and her R1 is now targeted. This heavily impacts the amount of damage that she can do at all points in the game and wrecks her mobility by a decent amount. Unfortunately, Akali is one of those champions who just naturally destroys in high elo and pro play, and Riot is trying to nerf her down. This is gonna hit her even harder in the lower ranks, and unfortunately, she's just gonna be awful. You definitely want to avoid playing Akali until she gets some compensation buffs or changes. The next biggest change on this list is about Ecco, and it's specifically nerfing Ecco jungle. His passive damage to monsters just got cut by 50%. That is no small amount. He will now clear slower, he'll be less healthy in his clear, and his ganks are going to be slower as a result. This might actually result in Ecco no longer being viable in the jungle, as a lot of early game junglers are very powerful right now, and their invades and ganks are going to be that much better. And it's important to point out that this isn't just a nerf to the early game, this is around the entire game. Ecco is just going to be doing less damage to monsters with his passive, so it will hurt him no matter where you are. The Ecco changes are simple, but they mean a lot. But things that are a bit more complicated are like the Sona nerfs. Riot has said that they want to focus on Sona as a support more than an AD carry, and this change is right in line with that. Sona AD carry was absolutely dominating across all ranks. Because of this, Riot decided that they were going to take a crap on her passive. You will almost never get a Wraith Soul from a cannon minion that you kill, even if you're using the support items that have the Spoils of War effects. And you might think I'm exaggerating, but no, you were 100% guaranteed to get a soul from cannon minions that you killed, but now it is 1.67%. So yeah, maybe you just don't play Sona AD carry anymore. That sounds like a brilliant idea. There is still hope though, as you can still guarantee missed Wraith Souls if you start attacking enemy champions. This means that you're going to be prioritizing damage and harass over farm, which is a little bit odd for an AD carry and why it suits her so much more for support. Her support also got buffs in the sense that minions that Sona doesn't kill have a 5% extra chance of dropping the souls. Whether you're playing her AD carry or support, make sure you keep these changes in mind. 100% of the time when you're playing support Sona, you will want a Spectral Sickle over anything else. Spoils of War is no longer a viable option. With that absolutely disgusting 55% win rate AD carry out of the way, let's move on to the absolutely disgusting 56% win rate top laner that is Sett. Now these changes hit hard, even harder than a haymaker. The health regen nerfs might seem small, but Sett's nerf to his health regen actually hits him in every matchup no matter what. Are you fighting in melee? You just don't have the same amount of sustain. Are you fighting against range poke constantly? Well, you still don't have the same amount of sustain, and it just sucks all around. On top of that, his W cooldown going up and the damage going down really hits hard. Sett is going to have to choose whether or not he wants CDR or super tank items like Gargoyle Stoneplate. While the damage going down by 5 at every rank isn't too terrible, the cooldown going up at every rank really hits home. This makes it nearly impossible for you to get more than 1 W off in an early game fight, and at max rank, the cooldown being 12 instead of 8 is huge. You have to get a ton of CDR just to make up for that alone. Sett might still hit hard in the early game, and he'll definitely be able to dish out some damage in big fights, but he certainly can't take a hit like he used to, and definitely not over and over again. Have you ever tried walking on top of a fire? I hope the answer is no. But that's exactly what you should be imagining your champion going through when that rumble starts burning your face off. Fortunately, Riot's fire safety team decided to step in and get something done, but instead of reducing the amount of fire that you're eating, they decided to make the guy holding it a little bit less obnoxious. Rumble's nerfs might seem simple at the beginning, but for the mid lane, the changes mean so much, as that's the role that he's the best in right now. The base stat changes mean almost nothing, but the shield nerf, oh my goodness, the shield nerf. That is 20 damage less that he could absorb every single time he uses it, and that can be the difference between killing somebody and not killing somebody on a gank, an attempt for a solo kill, or whatever it might be. Not only is he losing shield, but he's also losing movement speed, and that's a big deal in the mid lane. A lot of the popular mid champions have very powerful skill shots, and if they're harder to dodge, well then he's gonna die a lot more often. Getting pressured more means that he's not gonna be able to get as much gold and experience. Getting killed means the same exact thing. On top of that, he's not gonna be able to survive lane and roam roam and control fights going on across the map, and on top of all of that, he won't be able to just throw his ulti, press his Q, and burn your entire team to death for no reason. Hopefully these nerfs are enough that Rumble won't just be an absolute terror in the mid lane. Now let's talk about Ezreal. Ezreal's changes are a little bit more subtle. Yeah, he gets more mana per level, that's whatever, but the attack speed per level, now that is something that could get really crazy. There's recently been a surge of Ezreal being played with lethal tempo as a rune. This attack speed buff is going to combine with that lethal tempo build and make it even better. This might make Ezreal one of the better AD carries on the patch. He can already kind of keep up with Aphelios, Senna, and Miss Fortune already, so this might send him over the edge and make him one of the new best AD carries. By the time you get 2 or even 3 levels, you're going to notice a big difference in how quickly you can attack, and this just only gets stronger as the game goes on. If you haven't tried lethal tempo Ezreal yet, I highly recommend you do, and if you need to learn about champion specific stuff exactly like that, then you should check out our website GameLeap.com. We have those very specific champion guides that you might be looking for, or if you're looking for something more generic like a lane guide or even just basic skills to improve on, we have guides for those too. Everything that we have is done by challenger level players, and we're always looking to make more and better content so that you guys can bring your A game. But let's get back to showing you guys how you can bring your A game for this next patch. Since we just spoke about Ezreal, let's bring up Miss Fortune, who basically got the opposite end of the stick here. She got attack speed nerfs, almost as strong as the buffs to Ezreal, and this could bring her down a little bit on the ladder of AD carries. Without good use of her abilities, she won't be able to 1v1 other more auto-attack reliant AD carries, like maybe Caitlyn or Aphelios. Losing that much attack speed over time is really gonna hurt her, and it might even end up changing her build, and at that point she will do significantly less damage. When you don't just get to go Essence Reaver and then Infinity Edge because your attack speed is just that high, well, it's gonna make a big deal. You won't be able to DPS as hard as other AD carries outside of your ultimate, which will still hit like an absolute truck. While this doesn't really affect Miss Fortune in terms of how she fights other long-range, high-damage AD carries like Senna or Caitlyn, somebody like Lucian might have a much easier time against her, as she just doesn't have the attack speed to contest somebody like that at range. You guys might be remembering back to our 10.2 video about the Nautilus changes and how they meant absolutely nothing. Well, that definitely turned out as expected. And again, Riot, with Leona, why? Just why do anything if this is all you're going to do? Leona is losing 10 damage on her E and 5 damage each rank on her W. This does absolutely nothing. A lot of Leona's damage comes from her passive and from her allies being able to do damage because you just cannot move. This is hitting such a tiny fraction of Leona's usefulness that at the end of the day, it means next to nothing. You're still gonna one-shot that Janna or that Nami when you get on them, so go for it. Now, on the completely opposite side of the spectrum, we see a very good buff to Sejuani. She's getting a 10% attack speed buff at level 1, and for those of you who might not know, the attack speed rune in the minor runes gives you 9%. This is literally more than a rune's worth of change and is massive for her early clear. Sejuani E is very, very powerful against jungle camps, and having that much more attack speed to throw that stun on them and do that huge burst of damage is super important. Unfortunately, Sejuani also got a nerf. She used to be able to go onto a jungle camp and kill the large monster instantly, either the big raptor, big wolf, or even the big Krug using her smite, and at that point the small monsters wouldn't be able to get rid of her passive and she could just heal as much as she wanted off of that camp. This isn't gonna turn her into a farming and ganking machine, but it's definitely a step in the right direction, and with another small buff maybe in 10.4 or even a hotfix buff, Sejuani could be one of the best junglers around. And we still haven't left the realm of massive buffs and changes to champions, because next up is Yumi, who has a lot of very scary changes happening to her kit. I just really want to meet the Rioter who thinks that Yumi's Q doing current health damage makes any sense. Not only that, but the mana cost goes down at every rank except for the first one. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I first looked at this change and I was like, huh, that doesn't seem very good. You know, she lost 55 base damage and she does 2 to 8% of the current health. I mean, what's the math here, right? So I worked it out, and I don't understand why. But for some reason, in order for her Q at rank 5 to do more damage than it did before, all you need is 687 current health. That's it. I'm done. I'm gone. I'm leaving. I'm already going out the door. I'll see you guys next patch. So now Yumi's just the best support. That's just what it is, right? She's got healing, she's got movement speed, she gives attack speed, her W can be interrupted by less champions, and she just does more damage. She does so much more damage that she will absolutely crush any tank's health bar in the way given enough time. Like, all she has to do is hit 3 Qs, and they've lost like 20% of their health, maybe even more than that. Like, what is going on, man? Like, why does this champion have to heal a ton, give supportive stats, and also do a ton of damage? It doesn't make any sense. Anyhow, with Yumi out of the way, we finally made it past all the champions who have multiple changes, so let's talk about the more simpler ones and if any of them are going to have any sort of big effect. Looking at Gallio, his Q lasts a little bit longer, and because of that, it ticks for one more extra piece of damage. And it might seem kind of small, but that's just straight up a 25% damage increase, and that's not something to ignore. This change also helps both mid and support Gallio, and will even make him crush melee matchups harder. Let's not forget that champions aren't the only thing in the game you could damage. Minion waves are also going to be taking harder hits from Gallio. He might be able to clear backline waves sooner and be able to shove much quicker than he could before. This might mean a lot for how he can control the lane and play against ranged and melee champions alike. He might be able to control those assassins who try and shove and roam really quickly with the extra damage on his Q, and on top of that, he'll be even better at fighting them all around. So maybe look out for him in your games. Now the next change on Aphelios is small, but thank God they decided to do it. Whenever you get hit by the Calirium sniper rifle ability, or when it's on a Crescendum turret, he has a maximum range of 1800 to be able to basic attack you, so thankfully, he can't just kill you from halfway across the world. While there are no other nerfs directed at him, Aphelios will still be strong, but you're not gonna get shot from the moon anymore. This just makes him a little bit less irritating and overpowered. Now the Sona changes are a bit weird, because I don't really think anybody expected her to do so incredibly well just by getting a movement speed buff, but apparently that's enough for her to go up like 7% in win rate. While we certainly expected her to be doing much better, we didn't expect that much better, and Riot's toning back some of the movement speed that they gave her, so hopefully her win rate kind of goes down back to normal. She really shouldn't be that strong just because she can outrun everybody else. Definitely would recommend picking Sona in your games, especially if you're running out of options. She's pretty safe in the early game, and you don't need to do anything but scale as you get very powerful the longer the game goes on. Level 11 is your best spike. Much in the same way that I'd like to meet the Rioter who decided Yumi needed those buffs, I want to know who is working on Azir. They gave this man 42 mana and then an extra soldier on his ulti so that the width is a little bit bigger at all ranks. I'm not exactly sure what they think this is supposed to do for a late game hypercarry attack speed focused champion who needs a ton of items before he can do anything, but for some reason they decided that that was enough in an early game meta to make this man playable. Sure. Whatever you say. Azir mains, your day has not yet come. Much in the same way, Corki is receiving a similar nonsensical buff. They're buffing his special delivery W, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. Corki really needs like 2 or even 3 items to start hitting really hard, and him getting a little bit more damage on a 4-minute cooldown ability isn't really going to make up what he's lacking right now in this current meta. In the same way that these two champions got buffs that don't really matter at all, Diana got nerfs that don't matter so much. However, her mana nerf is something to point out. Losing 45 mana is the difference between casting another Q, another W, or another E, and that can make a big difference. 9 times out of 10 though, she's already smashing your head in before she has to cast another round of her ability. So it really doesn't matter that much unless you're talking about a very long laning phase. Now the nerf to her W might seem a little bit odd. She's losing 4 damage on it, but you gotta remember that her W can hit 3 times, so that's 12 damage. Actually, never mind, forget I said anything. This is the dumbest nerf I've ever seen, and goes right up in there in the Hall of Fame with -5 movement speed on Irelia. Unless there's some super hyper big brain calculations going behind the scenes where like Diana barely can't last hit all the minions with her W plus her passive proc in one hit, so that means that she dies in lane. No, there's no way it's enough. The chances are so incredibly small that I'm just not buying it. Well, that's all the champions out of the way, but this patch still has more in store for us. We've got jungle changes. Now, there is a lot of math going down behind the scenes here, so we're gonna avoid all of the raw numbers and summarize things and explain to you guys exactly what you need to know. First things first, you will have the same amount of experience that you had before when you kill your second large monster, and the longer the game goes on and the more large monsters you kill, the more you're going to have. On top of that, a funneling nerf is still in effect and is even more severe now, so if you were using that, you might want to think about doing otherwise. You aren't really going to notice much of a change in your clear in the first one, but after that first clear, you're going to notice a more significant difference as the experience ramps up between levels 4 and 6 and stays higher than it was in the past. Now, you might actually be level 6 right when your solo laners hit level 6, and you're not going to be level 4 or level 5 or even in some scenarios level 3 when they're hitting that level 6 power spike. Now that you know the general flow of the jungle changes, let me give you one piece of advice that is going to save you. Full clear your Krugs every single time. Those golems are just oozing with experience and gold. It's so juicy. You basically have to do it. If you don't full clear them, you are going to be way worse off than you were before. And that wraps up the jungle changes, but we still got some more. There's a couple of really important bug fixes that went out. First of all, Braum passive is now properly affected by tenacity. No wonder this dude felt like he was just smashing your head with a hammer. I felt like I couldn't move anytime I got stunned by that champ, and I'm sure you felt it too. The next bug fix that's important is actually a nerf to Lux. So before, Lux's E would give vision around an area even if she didn't manage to throw it in a bush, and this would let her reveal people hiding in bushes like the pixel brush in the middle of river even without needing to throw it directly in there. Now she can't do that anymore, and that makes it very dangerous for her to be scouting the longer the game goes on. She'll be easier to catch out as she has to extend just a little bit further forward to actually get real vision out. After that, we've got two Katarina changes. The first one, which is about her spinning daggers whenever she picks one up and does the spin, that used to give her 2 stacks of Conqueror for every target hit, and now it will only give her 2 no matter how many people she hits. That kind of hurts her as it prevents her from being able to stack it very quickly, although that usually wouldn't matter too much. But it's still nice as it means that she doesn't have an absolutely ridiculous turnaround on your entire team. Outside of that, whenever she uses her E to jump around, she will no longer try to auto a target that she was next to earlier, and this makes it so that you're gonna have better movement overall and you're not gonna be bugging out walking towards your opponents for no reason. And the last bug fix on the list is last because it's oh so very special. For some reason, Riot has managed to produce this sentence as a bug fix. Dead champions will no longer draw turret aggro. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is just one you deal with when you play a game from a small indie company. Brushing that one under the carpet, let's just talk about the visual and sound effects changes that are going to happen. Annie, Nautilus, and Malphite are all getting audio and visual changes, so don't be surprised when you see them in game. They work exactly the same, it's just gonna look slightly different and sound slightly different. Try not to get psyched out and remember to just stay in the game at that point. You don't need to get so crazy worked up about it, just make sure you pay attention. To keep yourself up to date with all of the changes that are going on with League, I highly recommend that you guys check out our website, GameLeap.com. We are always producing more and better content with our challenger level content creators to keep you guys up to date and at your A game on every single patch. Even if you aren't interested in guides on the newest champions or the newest changes, we also have guides on things that just don't change patch to patch. We have generic guides for the very basic and beginner skills that everybody needs that are fundamental to the game. And on top of that, we have lane-specific guides too. No matter what rank you are in League or what you're looking for in League, there's something up there for you. If you made it this far, thanks for watching the whole video. What do you guys think about the patch notes? I think some of this stuff is absolutely insane, as I'm sure you could tell. Anyways, as always, my name is Ace Windstorm, and I will see you all later.